Happy National Transfer Student Week, everyone. We are so excited to be celebrating National Transfer Student Week this year with a host of events to help students prepare for transitioning to their four-year program here at CCS, gaining their degree where they're joining the next generation of creative change makers here. And so to help with today's edition of National Transfer Student Week, we are hosting a live Q&A with Assistant Director of Admissions for transfer students, Eric Kaster, who will be answering all of your questions about transferring to CCS and pursuing a path after already having attended a college or community college or another university. So we have a Q&A. This is an interactive session today. So if you have questions about transferring to CCS, please place those in the chat box here on Instagram. And when Eric joins us, we are going to start answering your questions live. Prior to Eric joining us, I want to give you all a little bit of background about CCS for those who are just now learning about our school. CCS is a four-year university. We are a private, nonprofit accredited college by both the Higher Learning Commission and ACAD schools, geared towards helping students to pursue their creativity and really change the world, making a difference using what they love to make a living, which is art and design. So I'm going to go ahead and add Eric Kaster to the live so we can go ahead and get started. So once I get that request, we will add Eric. And I see so many folks are joining us. Hi, Eric. Welcome.
Hi, Brady.
I'm so excited to be doing this live Q&A with you today to answer questions for our transfer family out there. I actually have a few start-off questions before people submit those. And as you all are joining, please feel free to drop your questions in either the chat box here on Instagram or in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. But Eric, I just wanted you to start off talking a little bit about our transfer population at CCS. How many students do we have here that are transfer students?
About a third, I believe, of our students are transfers. So they are an important population at our institution. So know that you are not alone. There are many other students like yourselves that come from many different pathways and find their way to CCS. So your story, though it may be unique to you, is not unique overall in the big picture.
I love that. I love that such a big portion of our campus family are students who are transfer students. And we want to make sure that they have access to pursue this path. So while we wait for folks to submit their unique questions about transferring to CCS, I know we have a few frequently asked questions that I think generally we see a lot from students interested in transferring. And a big one is, what if I have no art background? How do I transfer to CCS? What do you tell the students who are currently pursuing, I know we've had alumni we've interviewed who are pursuing like forensics or something in the biomedical field. How does someone like that transfer to CCS?
So, understand that we're looking for potential, whether you be coming straight from high school or whether you're a transfer student. In fact, I think it's actually almost preferable for a student to come to us as a blank slate, because then we're not teaching you out of, maybe some bad habits that you may have developed over time. But there are fundamental skills that we're looking for that transcend all majors. So when talking about the portfolio, your portfolio, for the most part, doesn't need to be major specific. And it can contain elements of your creativity, your own creative voice, that are probably more than appropriate. If you are concerned about your portfolio, be sure to reach out to me and I'd be happy to coach you through it.
Awesome. That's great to know. Potential, not perfection, for sure. Now, Eric, what do we consider a transfer student here at CCS? At what point does someone become a transfer student? I know some students are doing early college or, middle college programs. What makes someone a transfer student?
Right. So middle college and dual enrollment and AP and IB credits are transferable, but the definition of a transfer student is a student who has graduated high school and has at least 12 semester credit hours that they're transferring in with. But that is not, again, to say that if you are taking courses through AP or IB or dual enrollment or early middle college, those courses are all transferable. It's just the definition needs to be that you're a high school graduate.
Got you. So if someone graduated from high school and is taking a little bit of college credit, they can transfer. What about GED students?
GED students are absolutely, they're the high school equivalent. So those students may also transfer. So I know there is a minimum score. I know we had a question about that recently. What did we end up with? 6?
I actually don't have it committed.
Yeah.
It's stored in my back pocket.
but you know, rest assured that a GED is fully admissible to the institution. So if that is what you're coming to us with, then that would be part of the equation. Again, to be officially considered a transfer student, then you would have also had 12 semester credit hours at a college that you were transferring.
Awesome. That is good to know. That is good to know. So this is a question that I often get from students. If I go to a community college in 2 years, for 2 years and get my associates, how long will it take me to finish CCS? What do you say to students who are, trying to cut a little bit of time off in their program?
So that's a really good question, because there is a prevailing assumption out there that if you go to a community college and you take 2 years, you get your associates, you amass all of these credit hours, that alone is going to dictate your time to degree completion. Really, what dictates how long you have with us are how many studio art courses that you've completed, and if you've completed them in a very structured and sequential manner. And this is true not just of CCS, but other specialty art and design colleges, any of the ACAD schools, Association for Independent Colleges of Art and Design. We're trying to loosen that structure up a bit and make it so that there is a little bit more flexibility, new programming possibly that might be in the very near future. I can't really talk about now, but that might provide students a pathway that would have them graduate a little sooner than most of our 11 undergraduate programs that we have currently. Now, for those students who are concerned about, what credits do I have that are going to transfer? Where will they show up in my curriculum? What will be my time to degree completion? A lot of those questions can't be answered fully until you actually make application. And we've made it as inexpensive and accessible as we possibly could. So the application itself, as you know, is the same for freshmen, no application fee. So takes about 30 minutes or less to complete the application. And that itself becomes a digital placeholder for your other application requirements. We do not require an essay or letters of recommendation, only your transcripts. And we've even removed some barriers there. If you would like to start by sending us unofficial transcripts, that's fine. Especially if you are currently taking classes in progress and you don't want to pay for 2 sets of transcripts, then let the first set be unofficial transcripts, meaning they come from you as opposed to the institution, saving you anywhere between $5 and, $75. I've seen some transcripts cost as much as that much.
Oh, geez.
But what you'll want to do is make sure that your transcripts that you send us, the unofficial copy, be in a PDF format and sent as an attachment to an email to the admissions@collegeforcreativestudies.edu email address. Make sure that your name is on the document, the school's name, and your class's course codes and title. And if you've attended more than one college, it's super important that you get transcripts from each college, because your prior college courses that transferred only show up as a T. And typically they don't come with a course code or title from that institution. And we do need those to help make an assessment for your credit evaluation.
Got it. So make sure you're sending those college transcripts from every college you've attended, if you've attended multiple. And for these steps that you've described, I know a common question that we get is, do you have to have all of those application materials ready before you submit your final application?
also an excellent question. It's almost as though somebody gave these questions to you.
There's somebody.
But the answer to that question is no, you do not. In fact, we would prefer that you submit the application so that you do have a digital placeholder for the other requirements as we receive them, but also to get on my radar screen so that I know that you're applying and I can assist you through the process, and also to get you in the flow of information that is being sent out to students so that you don't miss any important programming. Like we would notify you of open houses or our departmental overviews called Major Insights. So having your application in means that you're getting information from us that you need in a timely manner. Then,
makes sense.
To answer that question more fully, you can send your transcripts and your portfolio anytime after. You want to try and adhere to the deadlines that are posted on our website, only to ensure that you have a smooth transition. They may not dictate wholly the type of scholarship that you receive, but we try and get application materials completed early so that we can get you the answers to the questions that you have, like, will I be admitted? What type of scholarship will I receive? How much financial aid? All of that is determined after your application is complete and we've made an admissions decision, as well as your transfer credit evaluation. That's done almost immediately when you've completed your application requirements.
Awesome. And you mentioned deadlines, Eric, and I know this is a question I've seen and gotten from students too. Is the deadline different for transfer students than it is for freshman students?
So we adhere, I think, to the same deadlines, again, so that you're working within a time frame that is going to ensure that you're not running up against the clock and getting yourself deposited. Your deposit is what ensures that your student file goes over to academic advising so that they can prepare your schedule. So if you hold up that process at any point, you may not be getting your schedule as quickly as other students who have completed that process. We encourage, if you're applying for the winter term, which is possible, not everyone's situation makes for a winter entry being optimal. So you want to talk with me about that, and we can determine if that's a good time for you to begin. We do have a November 1st soft deadline to encourage students to complete their application requirements by that date. And then by the end of November, you want to have deposited for the program. So again, your file can get over to academic advising along with your transfer credit evaluation, which is what they work from, to prepare your schedule in time for our semester break. So we'd like to get that information to you before we close for the holiday break, which is like 2.5, almost 3 weeks. And we open just shortly before the beginning of the winter term. So again, you don't want to find out after we've gotten back from break what your schedule is.
Yeah, that's scary right before class start.
Yeah. So, and again, you want your financial aid and you want your scholarship so that you can make an informed decision, so you know how to move forward. If you are applying for the fall, of course, you have a bit longer, but I would still encourage that, you complete by the February 1st priority deadline if you are able, because again, there's a lot that has to happen on our end, like packaging your admissions decision, getting that out in the mail. That takes a few days to get to you. That will have your merit scholarship award in it. It takes a couple weeks for financial aid to package a student award letter. And this is all information that you want to have so that you can make, again, your informed decision before you submit your enrollment deposit. And then when we begin scheduling, it's usually, early spring. So, if you want to have your schedule early, that would be a good time to have done that by.
So we've talked a lot about timing, Eric, and I have a question for students who are coming from high school, but they know they want to transfer for whatever reason. They've already applied to CCS and they decide they want to transfer. At what point should they start working with you? Is it as soon as they know they want to transfer? Is it as soon as they've been admitted to a community college? Is it after they start taking classes? Like, at what point should someone start working with you on their plan to transfer to CCS?
So this is a real gray area. I know it's important that students work with their freshman counselors while they're still in high school so that they can advise them on a transfer plan. But I am always happy to speak with any student who's anxious and would like somebody to look at, the credits that if they're dual enrolled they've had, for example, or early middle college, to give them an idea of what is left to take so that they can be sure not to take in excess of what they need, or we can advise them on courses that they could take that we know will be transferable.
Awesome. Awesome. So make sure you're working with your freshman counselors if you're still in high school, even if you think you want to transfer. But Eric will be there when it is time to transfer, for sure. I wanted to pause here. I know we've had folks jumping in and out of the live, but I just want to say for anybody who's tuning in currently, this is a chance to get your questions answered. So if you have questions about transferring to CCS, whether it's from a university, another college, or a community college, make sure to add those questions to the chat box or the Q&A here so we can get those answered live for you. So Eric, I want to take a break from the list of frequently asked questions to ask something for my own sake. Could you explain to the folks either tuning in live or watching the recording afterwards the difference between the Michigan Transfer Agreement and the MI Transfer Pathways? I know they're similar opportunities with Michigan schools, but can you explain the difference between the two?
Sure. Well, so the Michigan Transfer Agreement is a signatory agreement that we have with other institutions that outline the liberal arts or general education courses that you would want to take that would be transferable to any institution and fulfill their requirements. For us, there are 127 credit hours required to receive your Bachelor of Fine Arts degree, but 42 semester credit hours of those are those general education or liberal arts courses. We do on our website have a general MTA that if we don't have one specifically written for your institution, and we do have a handful of those on our website as well, we'll give you a general guideline or outline of, how many English courses you need, and you would work with your advisor at your institution to get those courses scheduled. How many humanities, how many sociology, psychology, natural science courses, and you can just basically plug those in. If you have any doubts at all, again, you're welcome to reach out to me and I can assist you with, again, maybe what you've had, so we can look at doing a quick transfer credit evaluation and then working on a transfer plan to fill the holes. The transfer pathways, we do have, now if I'm not mistaken, transfer pathways for art. So outside of the liberal arts that we have, the art transfer pathways would give you some common studio courses that might be transferable to CCS. Of course, whenever we're talking about a studio class, it's not automatic that transfer. It would require a portfolio review to determine that you're working at the level that we would expect of your CCS peers, and that you're also showing that you understand the knowledge base that would be required for that particular class. Otherwise, if it's a general education course and it fits within the MTA, as long as you've gotten a C or better, that is most likely to transfer. Now, you may be looking from schools that are out of state and not part of the Michigan Transfer Agreement. Other states have similar agreements, and they very likely would mirror or very closely resemble what the MTA looks like. But again, that's just a roadmap. It's not a requirement. If you begin the MTA at an institution, you don't have to complete the MTA to transfer. There may be circumstances where it's better to transfer sooner than later. So it really is just a roadmap for you to use.
Got it. That's helpful, I think, to know for students. Someone says Eric makes seamless working with our transfer students. That was the interior design department. I know Eric is a magician for all students transferring to CCS. So you mentioned this transferability for students from out of state, but for students transferring from out of the country, is the process any different? Are there other things for international transfer students to consider?
Yeah, and this is really Sasha's deal, but from what I understand, Sasha would require some additional documentation for students transferring from an international college. It's important that we get the documents written in English, so that might require a transcription service. We would also need course descriptions for all of the classes that are on the transcript. And also it'd be nice to get a academic calendar so that we are aware of what the contact hours might be for those courses. So there is a little additional information that we would need to collect in order to assess those credits for transfer. And of course, again, if you are an international student tuning in, Sasha Walker is our International Student Advisor, Assistant Director for International Students, and she would be the contact person to reach out to who could advise you further on all of the documents that you need.
Awesome. Thank you. I want to make sure to shout out, if you want to contact Sasha, you can make sure to email INTL admissions, so shorthanded for international admissions, at collegeforcreativestudies.edu. So we're talking about, dropping my notes here. That's never fun. So we've talked a lot generally about the application process, timelines. I want to talk a little bit more about some of the nuances of the application process. Like if someone is submitting a portfolio for transferring, we just talked about that Michigan transfer pathways and looking at some of those art-based classes. How does someone submit the portfolio for admissions for transferring? And are they submitting a separate portfolio for those classes that they're doing that are art-based classes?
Yeah, so that's a good question because, yes, there are two portfolios. And depending on how many studio classes a student might be transferring in, it may only be necessary that a student submit one, which would be the admissions portfolio that is submitted on SlideRoom. So if you have, 3 or 4 studio classes, basic drawing and 2D design and 3D design, those can be thrown up on SlideRoom and we wouldn't likely have to ask for additional work. But if you are in an articulation agreement with an institution that we have an articulation agreement with, or if you just simply taken, amassed a number of studio credits in a particular area of study, this happens a lot maybe in graphic design or photography. I've seen some animation and film programs where we've got a lot of secondary sophomore, junior level coursework. In that case, consider your admissions portfolio that you submit on SlideRoom your show reel. It's the best of. So you want to be very selective because that determines not only your admission, but it determines your scholarship. Mm-hmm. So, you would receive a, portfolio score based on the strength of your portfolio and your grade point average. Those combined would determine your merit scholarship award. But again, if you have amassed a number of studio art credits, then we would likely come back and ask for additional work. It would be noted on your transfer credit evaluation form, which we will send you in an email. And there's a status and notes column on the right-hand side. And if you see the abbreviation NW, that signifies new work. Then we're asking for additional work for each of those studio classes where you see an NW. If it's SY, that would be syllabus. So we would ask that you contact your instructor and get a syllabus, which would give us a deeper look at maybe the software that you were using for that particular class, or contact hours, or some other information that might be revealing that would help assist us in assessing that class for placement. Typically, we're looking for about a 60% match in course content. So we're even a little bit flexible and liberal there. So then what you would do with your studio classes is you would create a Google Share folders for each of the classes, and we'll send you an email that will have instructions with the naming conventions. And you would drop 4 or more projects for each of those classes into the folders, put them in a master folder, and then share them with an email address that we provide you. And in that way, we're able to share your work with the Associate Director of Admissions, my colleague, Amber Thomas, whom I couldn't do this without.
On Instagram.
What's that?
I said, who we talked to yesterday on Instagram. We did that.
That's right. So if any of you tuned in and you had met Amber, well, now you've met the whole team for the most part. But we may also be sharing with your department chair because, you know, we have a certain level of expertise. Amber a little bit more so than I, but with curriculums changing as often as they do, and I know that was part of what you talked about last evening, so I checked out the recording. But with curriculums changing, you know, sometimes we have to rely on the faculty to assist us in placing some of those courses, so we may share your portfolio out with them. Mm-hmm. So 2 portfolios, it really depends on the number of studio classes, but you don't need to worry about that. I will let you know if we need additional work.
There's no guesswork involved. Eric will guide.
No, yeah, I do all the heavy lifting.
Let him lift. Let him help you. Yeah. So speaking of studio classes, this is actually a question I get a lot from students. And sometimes I get on the back end when it's kind of late, but I have students ask like, well, if I'm interested in transferring for animation, I should take a bunch of art classes and animation classes, right? Or if I'm interested in transferring for interior design, I should take a bunch of interior-based classes. Is that true for students who are interested in transferring?
It is not true. In fact, maybe the antithesis of that is true. You know, remember I said it's almost better to come in as a clean slate. So we don't necessarily require that you have work specific to your major. And, you know, wouldn't you want to take most of those studio classes with us anyway, so that you have some consistency along with your peers? You've got no gaps in your learning. You've all taken the same coursework. So again, we're looking for fundamental skills, not necessarily portfolios that look like the major that you want to apply for. And again, we can advise you on the type of fundamental skills that we're looking for that particular major. So I know there are tips and recommendations. There's this wonderful video I know we have up on there that you'll enjoy. But you know, the website does a pretty good job of guiding you in terms of what we're looking for. But if you have any doubts at all, another reason to reach out to me. If you do not have it yet, I don't know, Brandy, if at some point you could throw it up in the chat box, my Calendly link. And I think you can also get it on the website. But this would be an opportunity for you to find a time that's convenient for you to schedule with me a meeting so that we can share screens and you can show me some of your work and I can, you know, show you some Google prompts that you might use to look for some examples of creative process. And we can talk a little bit about, you know, how you might develop a portfolio if you need to tweak it or you have holes. In most cases, students are so hard on themselves about the portfolio, they're more ready than they think they are. Right?
I found that to be very true over and over again, where students are like, what? I'm ready. Yes, you're ready. So we actually had an amazing question come in the chat. For the illustration major, can you list any skills that CCS would be looking for in the portfolio?
Yeah, well, so if you are applying to a program like transportation design, illustration, animation, those are programs that are drawing heavy. So for those programs, we are looking that you have a basic understanding of drawing fundamentals. So you're drawing relative to proportion and perspective. Your value turns the form and gives it volume. Maybe helps establish spatial relationships, so you get a sense of foreground, middle ground, and background, and where you place the objects compositionally within the frame of reference. That has a lot to do with, you know, just having some basic drawing skills, and that can be intuitive. It doesn't have to be classroom taught. So you want to, again, look at the website or check with me, and I can advise you more specifically what we are looking for in the portfolio. In fact, very important for any of you who may be interested in concept design, you definitely want to check in with me so that we can discuss the portfolio for it. It being a very unique program at CCS in that it is space limited, is selective, and it has a deadline, where our other programs are on rolling admissions. And the portfolio for concept design, it asks a lot of you. We're looking for both traditional and possibly digital skills, though that's not a requirement for the program. But there are specific areas that you want to hit on, and there are some tips and recommendations that we can advise you on to prepare the strongest portfolio possible. So if you think you're interested in concept design, let's definitely get together and talk some more.
So for sure, for illustration, animation, game, transportation design, we want to see drawing in the portfolio. We want to see those fundamental skills. If you're interested in concept design, get in touch with us so we can guide you to see what specific things we want to see in the portfolio. So hopefully that answers, thank you, Eric. Hopefully it answers the question. I think it does. It's pretty thorough.
Yeah. Well, and we left out a couple that I think are really difficult for some students. Like, if I'm applying for fashion design, do I have to have fashion design in my portfolio? Or what do I put in if I'm doing interior design? I'll tell you what not to put in if you're doing interior design. You don't want to do it before and after, because understand that interior design is not just interior decorating. I mean, it is that, but it's much, much more than that. It's about space planning. So again, your portfolio doesn't have to look like interior design, but if it does, make sure that you're dealing with, why you're creating the space that you are. What is the inspiration? What is the need? If you're creating an entertainment space in a residential home and the client has asked that you open it up onto their patio or lanai or porch or whatever you want to call it, you might have decided that you're going to put pocketed doors across the whole back of the house and explain that this was one of the specs that the client had to open up the indoors to the outdoors. So you want to show research and process and, the reason for why you're designing. You want to probably mention lighting, using lighting as a pathway device, how to move people through a space or how to illuminate a space properly. So again, it's more than just interior decorating, but it can also just be photography. Everybody's got a camera phone. So, again, those fundamental skills like composition, that's design, and that is relatable to interior design. And for fashion, you can have fashion pieces. You might want to show construction of those pieces. And again, what inspired you, do maybe a presentation board, pull the materials in that you're planning to use, show some of the fabrication and construction and showing sewing skills, or not at all. And again, it could be collage. Maybe you're collaging, if you don't draw well, maybe you cut pieces from a magazine and you create these design elements using photographs, or you just simply photograph.
Yeah,
so I like to say this, and I'm losing my audience because it's a commercial that ran probably 10 years ago. But if you remember Outback Steakhouse, they used to say, "No rules, just right." Throw your portfolio on the Barbie and see what you come up with. I'm sure it's going to be just fabulous. There, I got a dad joke in.
I knew at least we have at least one dad joke on the call today.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Well, that was an amazing answer to that student's question. I see we have some more folks joining in. So if you have questions about transferring to CCS, make sure you're adding those in the comment box or in the question Q&A box here on Instagram so we can get your questions answered. Now, Eric, you spoke to a few different majors: illustration, concept, interior, fashion. But what if someone has an interest in art education as a backup planner, if they wanted to pursue that at CCS? When do they make that determination as a transfer student? And is there anything different that they need to do in the process?
So there's nothing really different that you need to do. I feel like sometimes, and I don't know if you get this too, students are checking that art education box on the application form thinking, oh, well, it's just something I'll have in my back pocket, as a fallback in case I don't make it in my studio major. And honestly, check that box if what you want to do is predominantly teach, because it's going to add a semester to your overall time to degree completion to do your student teaching. And look, if you want to teach, it's a fabulous program. Your credentials are going to travel with you across all 50 states in the US and Canada through the Michigan Reciprocity Agreement. You can do your student teaching right on campus. We have a high placement rate for students in our art education certification. And a lot of that is because of the emphasis on the studio that you take. So it is kind of a 2-for-1. So if you do it, you take 4 years of the same studio coursework that you would take in any of our 11 undergraduate programs. And, you could do that. So you could be a working artist, but you can also teach K through 12. But, make sure you do it for the right reasons. So don't just check that box because you think, well, if I don't make it as a studio artist, I can fall back on art education.
I feel like students should never choose a major because they have fear. You should always feel excited and empowered about the path that you're pursuing, because your passion is going to push you and propel you to do as best you can. I was just telling some students, I had like 4 classroom presentations today. I was telling students in each one, like, there's this misnomer that you have to choose a certain type of art or design in order to get a path. I'm like, there are successful paths for all disciplines of art and design. So it's really about choosing what you want to do and making that choice out of excitement rather than, doubt and fear. We'll make sure you're good at what it is you want to do. Yeah.
And love, honor, and respect your parents. But, I've seen some parents, push students to do product design because they think it's a more practical program. But honestly, if your heart is in art practice, you can be equally successful as a fine artist. We have students that are showing in the MoMA, the Guggenheim, they're featured in the Whitney Biennial. So if they can do it, you can do it if that's what you have a passion for. And by the way, I didn't mention, if you don't know, you know where I'm going with this? If you don't know your major, that's okay too. Yeah. We have a Discovering Your Practice course in the first year, first semester, that would kind of give you an overview of all of our programs. And then you would select your major between your first and your second semester. There is time, even if you come in and you click the wrong box and you feel that you selected the wrong major, to correct course. You don't want to get too deep into the program before you make that change, though, because your classes are very major specific. And so, if you get deep into the program, you might have to kind of go back and start, not from square one, but take those studio classes specific to your major that you may have missed in the other major or the other program.
Yeah, I think that's important to know, because there are some schools, art schools, that have a foundation year, and at CCS we're direct entry with the programs, the studio classes for your major. So want to make sure you're either very confident about that major, or you're coming in undeclared, so we can support you in figuring out what's the best path for you, for sure. Now, Eric, I have a sticky question for you. This is my sticky dance here.
I see. I thought I was getting off easy up until now. Now you're going to make it hard.
Hard questions. So what are some of the biggest mistakes that students make when attempting to transfer to CCS?
Oh, that's not a hard question. That's an easy question. The biggest mistake students make is making assumptions on what will transfer and kind of, creating your own transfer plan without checking in. The earlier you can, start working with us, the smoother your transition is going to be. You're not going to be taking courses that you don't need to take, that might be in excess of what we would require, or, class that's not required within your major. So definitely check in with us so that, if you're coming to CCS, we can work with you on a transfer plan, which is simple as looking at what you've had up until this point, and then looking to see what holes we need to fill. If we need to fill any holes at all, it depends on how much time, what kind of gap there's going to be between the time that you are inquiring and when you plan to transfer. Typically, I say transfer sooner than later. So you can start within the studio program and, In some circumstances, again, amassing a number of credits in liberal arts aren't really going to advance your time to degree completion greatly. So that's why I say transfer sooner than later. And keep in mind that, you know, if you want to complete an associate's degree and it's not really going to impact your time to degree completion, every year that you're spending outside of the school that you plan to graduate from, I think the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics says that students are losing on average about $25,000 a year. So you want to get in and out of the program you plan to get your BFA so that you can start earning those big bucks.
Yeah, that's a scary number, $25,000 a year. I'm like, no, I don't want to lose that.
No, nobody wants to lose that. So let's get you in and out as quickly as we can.
Yeah. And with I know with the students that we talk to who graduate from CCS, you know, 96% of them are saying that they're working within a year of graduation. I think 69%, or almost 70, within 6 months of graduation. So getting that return on investment pretty soon. So yeah, we definitely want to make sure that's the case for students coming from CCS.
Yeah, and that brings up a good point too, Brandy. You know, I know there's a lot of fear around student loans right now. You know, we're talking about student loan forgiveness and the price of colleges, you know, being so steep, you know, especially private art and design colleges. But you're not going to pay the published price. You know, we get pretty generous scholarships, and we have scholarship incentives. By the way, I didn't mention specifically for transfer students, the Phi Theta Kappa scholarships are for high achieving students, and those can be $2,000 to possibly $4,000 in addition to any merit award that you might receive through admissions, in addition to any financial aid that you might receive. So don't discount the possibility that an art design college is affordable for you. There is money, and you're certainly at no point obligated to attend if you find out that the financial aid isn't enough. But don't just, you know, fold up shop and call it a day. If you are struggling to meet ends in terms of your financial gap, let us know. Don't just disappear, because it's possible that the financial aid office might be able to assist you with a financial appeal. That's not something that everybody can do or everybody should do. But, you know, if we can assist you incrementally just to make ends meet, you know, that is something that we certainly can do.
I think that's great advice for all students, not just transfer students too. You know, don't give up just because you get that financial aid package and you're like, oh, I'm just, you know, this short. Make sure you're conversing with us. If CCS is your end goal, let us know so we can support you as much as humanly possible. I know we don't have, you know, full tuition scholarships, but we do as much as we can. Yeah. Those are some great.
And we used to have full tuition scholarships, but, you know,
no one used them.
Well, and we found that, you know, spreading the love, you know, provides somebody who might have needed that extra $3,000 a year, and that made it possible for them to attend. Mm-hmm. Oh, and I wanted to say, too, about loans. I think I started on that and I got sidetracked. Don't be afraid to take them out. Everybody has student loans. We are going to work with you as responsibly as we can. But the one thing that Brandy had said earlier were that the return on investment. Most of our students are working within their chosen major, making good money, and able to pay off those student loans. Now, is that a guarantee for everybody? No. I want to go on record saying no. I
think our rate is like 3%. So there's like a very small percentage of students who,
look, hey, it's what you put into your education. So if you come to CCS and you work hard and you take advantage of all of the resources that you have available to you, internships and company recruiters on campus, so that you're there and you're networking with them and you're using the resources in career development, the chances are more likely that you're going to be one of those students that gets a good job. And then I'm guessing you'll be able to pay the rent, lease a car, put food on the table, and live a pretty good life. And then with every year, you know, if you're as sharp as Brandy is, you know, you're going to get these, you know, cost of living increases. When we get back to that, that's coming back. and you're going to move up the ranks in your position, and that's going to mean salary increases for every advancement that you get. So your earning potential isn't what your starting salary is.
I think that's a great point. Yeah, what you earn as soon as you step off foot of campus isn't the lifetime sentence for what you'll earn. I mean, as somebody who's paid off their student loans from CCS, I can attest to the fact that that is something that's possible. And I paid them off in less than 10 years, so I'm excited about that. Thanks, Career Development Office at CCS. So I see we have a question that came in the chat box here, Eric. Can you elaborate on what a Merit Award is and how to gain one through admissions?
Oh, yeah. You know what? I didn't say, and that's a good question. Whoever asked that question, you're brilliant. A Merit Award simply means that it is not based on need. So it is based on merit, which in this case is your portfolio and your grade point average. And it is offered through admissions and has nothing to do with financial aid or financial need or your FAFSA. Your need-based aid will be determined based on your family income. If you're under 25, it's going to be your parents' tax returns as well as your own. But all of that will determine your need-based aid. Grants are the same as scholarships, but they're based on need. So very similar. But this is money that you don't pay back. Things like the Pell Grant and a CCS institutional grant or a housing grant. These are going to be based on your need and your situation. My dog's in here visiting with me.
Puppy. Yeah, I like to call that free money you don't owe anyone else back. You have a free application for the chance of getting some free money to help with college. And then,
and by the way, so the merit scholarships, you don't apply for. They're automatic. So again, we will determine that for you. You don't need to worry about a thing other than just making sure that you've got, the best portfolio you're capable of, which doesn't mean that you need to spend 2 months working on that one last piece that really honestly is probably not going to make a big difference in the big picture. So, don't hold up your application process months for just one piece of work or 2 pieces of work.
That's a big mistake that I think a lot of students make. Like, if I just get this piece,
that goes back to your earlier. Yeah, that goes back to your earlier question. What are some of the big mistakes?
That is definitely a big one. Eric, you've dropped so mani jewels of knowledge and information and helpful tips. Everything from our Phi Theta Kappa scholarships to portfolio prep to, timelines. Man, if I were a transfer student, I'd feel so prepared.
I picked up a few things in the 30 years that I've been working. It's before I had gray hair. This beard was jet black.
Oh my gosh. Why can't I picture that? You got to send me a picture of you with jet black hair.
Yeah, I got pictures. I'll show you sometime.
Sounds good.
And I don't know if my granddaughter is here on the presentation with us, but shout out to Isabella. We call her Izzy. If you're out there, Grandpa says hi. Oh, yeah, I know. It's a little before her time transferring, but I thought there would be some good information here that she could get. So I had her tune in.
That's awesome. And there has been some amazing information you've shared this evening. I see somebody who's here at another college. Hey. So I have, before we wrap up for this evening, Eric, I don't see any other questions in the chat box or in the Q&A box, but is there any last advice that you would give, words of wisdom that you would give to students who are unsure about their path, they're considering art, but they don't know what to do, they're still in college and they're just thinking about their future? Any words of wisdom that you'd share with some students?
You don't have to have all of the answers. We will help provide those answers for you. So again, don't hesitate reaching out. There's no dumb question. They're all good and they can all be addressed. But we need to hear from you. And I hate to keep going back to that, but so many students don't. The first time that you hear transfer students not usually sometimes, I don't want to pigeonhole anyone, may not think that they need to apply until May when they're going to complete their coursework at the college that they're currently attending. That's probably the biggest mistake. It's better, again, that you get on our radar early so we can usher you through the process and not scramble in May. You know, when most students are depositing for their program, May 1 is a national deposit deadline. So apply early, get your application materials in. If it's a matter of, oh, but then you'll have done my transfer credit evaluation, what about the courses I'm going to take in the spring? Well, you just send us transcripts in the spring and we'll update it. But at least you've got a pretty solid idea of what your cost is going to be, what credits are going to transfer up to that point. So the rest of it is just, you know, housekeeping, tidying it up at the end.
I love it. I love it. Eric, you have been an absolute gem. Thank you so much for answering so many questions about transferring. See, I love doing Instagram lives. I think they're awesome. I love seeing students pop in. Hey, Zaria and Anti-Illustrations, all the folks here who are tuning in and getting their questions answered and learning, I'm sure, a ton about transferring to CCS. So, Eric, for students who want to get a hold of you and want to take your advice and get a hold of you early, what's the best way for students to reach you?
Oh, see, if I tell you, then they're actually going to get a hold of me, and I'm going to be really busy answering questions.
You're already really busy.
The best way, jot this down, the best way to reach me, well, the best way to reach me would be through my Calendly, where you can schedule an appointment. And again, I think you can find that on the website under the transfer, requesting information about transfer. But my phone number, I'm happy to give it to everybody out there live, is 313-407-6739. That is my cell. Unlike my office phone, which never rings because I'm never there, you can reach me 24/7 on my cell. Just don't call me at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Don't call any of us at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, no, that would be bad. You can also email me at eCaster, that's EKASTER, eCaster at collegeforcreativestudies.edu. But if you do contact me through Calendly, that will give you a number of days that I am available to schedule an appointment with and the hours that I am available. You choose one that's convenient for you. We'll be sure to connect. And I would advise you to choose or select a Zoom video appointment over just a phone call, because there's so much more that we can accomplish that way if you do.
Awesome. Awesome. I know I don't have your Calendly link offhand, but I did place in a chat box for those of you who are here and interested in transferring Eric's phone number and email address so you can get a hold of him. And like he mentioned, that Calendly link is on our website. Eric, you are amazing. Thank you, everyone who's tuned in for this version of Ask Me Anything Transfer Student Edition. Be sure to keep watching this Instagram page tomorrow to see some amazing examples of other alumni who've transferred to CCS and their stories about doing exactly what Eric's talking about, coming from their community college or other universities and pursuing this path. And they're doing some amazing things in their career. So again, happy National Transfer Student Week to everyone. And we hope to talk to you soon, help you with your path. Thanks so much, Eric.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks. Bye.